Welcome back, everybody, to another amazing episode of the Be and Become podcast. This is the podcast where we really dive deep into the amazing minds and initiatives, like my guest today, who's revolutionized our workplaces like so many of other experts. Aimee is the founder of Menovate, and her mission is to challenge outdated norms and create workplaces where employees feel valued while going through menopause. She educates leaders, shapes policies, and she's sparking a very important conversation about how we can best support one of the largest and most and fastest growing portions of our workplace, and that is women over the ages of 30 years old. And I am so excited to have her. It's always such a treasure to me. I was just telling Aimee how much I get so fired up when I see women entrepreneurs changing outdated norms, being advocates for all the women and employees and leaders behind them to really carve out a better path forward in terms of how we're supporting women through this change of life and how we can do that with empathy and do that with respect. So, welcome to the show, Aimee.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yes, I'm so excited too. We already had such an amazing conversation behind the scenes about just how pivotal this issue really is and how so many companies really need to start opening up their eyes and recognizing that so many women have really important needs that need to be heard and need to be valued in the workplace. And I want to take a quick moment to let Aimee share her amazing, inspiring story on how she came to Menovate and how she had to go through the trenches of her own menopause experience. So, Aimee, I'd love to hear that story.
Love sharing it. So I worked corporate for many years. I worked for a large telecom company and I did startups before that. And I had increasing roles and I loved what I did and who I worked with. But about 13 years ago, I started to suffer terribly from perimenopause symptoms and a whole range of them, from terrible brain fog, frozen shoulders, heart palpitations, not sleeping, anxiety. And I didn't know what was happening to me. I'd never spoke to my mom about it. I never heard the word menopause at work ever come up. I didn't talk to friends about it. And so I was left feeling like I was either going crazy or having early dementia, or physically something was really wrong. I was scared. And so I went to different doctors, my GP, my gynecologist. I went to all shoulder doctors, all trying to figure out. And when I would ask if it was hormonal related, they would look at me like I had thorns in my head and say no.
Hmm.
And so I kept searching for answers and educating myself and looking for research and trying to put all the different pieces of what I was feeling together. And the more I read, the more I figured out, okay, you're definitely in perimenopause. And so that took years to really uncover and put it all together and figure out what was going on. And I had an epiphany moment when I was corporate and working and looking around and going, wait, why am I the only one feeling this, but yet every single woman around me? So half of my working population is going to go through menopause, with about 95 or more having symptoms, but nobody is talking about it. And so I started talking to everyone and anyone that would listen, friends, family, peers, colleagues. And I tried, in the role I was in, I was chief of staff for the president, and I would see other women coming through and having the brain fog in the middle of a meeting and sweats and sweater on, sweater off, and really exhausted looking eyes. And I knew what they were suffering. And so I started to talk corporately and even try and approach HR. And there was just so much stigma and unwillingness to have the conversation. And thankfully, it is changing from when this started for me until fast forward to now. But I knew that there had to be a different way for women to go through this and to not be blindsided the way I was, and to know what's coming and be educated and to have allies and support from the corporate world.
It's just so amazing how you were just able to kind of, it's almost like it gives me this impression of like almost cutting through a veil. It's like There's no way to think that, women aren't going through this. Like this is the most natural thing and phase of a woman's life. I love that moment that you're saying, hang on a second, I can't be the only one going through this. These isolating feelings can't actually be true. This is the most natural biological phase of a woman's life. I love that you were able to kind of see right through them and be like, hang on a second, you're going through it too. And one of the things that I love about this podcast is that we really talk about a lot of issues that are just not talked about for whatever reason. And I really just appreciate that you were able to name it and, get it out there and take it out of the ether and just say, yeah, this is what we're going through, and being able to do it honestly and with dignity too.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is not getting old. It is normal, natural transition for women. And, there is the stigma that it isn't old, but really it is so important for corporate to understand this is happening. Perimenopause starts in women in late 30s. So quite beginning of careers and then last all the way through to the rest of their life. And so it's not a small population. It's a huge population suffering the symptoms. And it's such a great thing to talk about for a woman. And it's such a great thing to start having an open conversation. But it's really important corporately as well, because the stats are quite staggering. 1 in 10 women in Canada leave their job because of menopause symptoms. And they're not telling HR, they're not talking to their boss, they're not talking to their peers. And so that's what needs to change. There's a huge financial implication of women leaving on the height of their skill set. They're leaving, there's an attrition issue, there's a retention issue, there's sick leave. I mean, most women will say that it affects their productivity because of the brain fog and the non-sleeping, and over 60% will take time off work. So there's an implication and a cost to companies. And if women are supported and heard and listened, then a lot of that very simply goes away.
It's so important that we mention the financial cost of these issues. A lot of the people that come onto my show, especially, we always talk about mental health and how it causes such high attrition rates, and how even just workplaces in general, when people aren't feeling comfortable to be vulnerable enough to say, this is how I'm feeling and this is what's impacting my work or impacting my productivity, at the end of the day, it's the company that loses out. And I think that's a really important thing that we have to stress here, is that it's not just, of course, I can't believe that they would actually leave their workplaces for this. Big sadness, right? Because it's like, I'm seeing these amazing, talented women, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, not only is it a loss for them where it's like, oh man, like I really had to leave something, but I think it's actually more of a loss of the company for losing that caliber of talent, both financially and also just in terms of losing important contributors to their bottom line and to the whole nature and emotional health of the actual workplace as well.
Yeah, I mean that the number is staggering. 10% leave and up to
Mm.
20% consider leaving. And as I said, in the US, they use a 1 in 6, so it's even higher. But yeah, I talk to women all the time who have left. And so, a really great example is a woman, she was the head of a very large banking institution, and she just thought she was burnt out. Fast
Mm.
forward 8 months, and I said to her, you're not burnt out. You have every classic perimenopause symptom. And she went and started getting help and changed lifestyles and got support from her doctor. And now she's just gone back and taken a huge role at a new company because she's feeling amazing. And that's menopause can be this amazing, enlightening, phenomenal time in a woman's life. And so that other company lost her. They had to go to a headhunter, rehire her, train the organization. So yeah, lots of loss of skill set and mentorship and expertise that corporations are losing because of this, of not even having the conversation and bringing it to the table.
It seems like such an easy ask, right? Like when we get these issues that come up on our show, it always comes back to the same thing. Are we feeling seen? Are we feeling heard? Are we feeling emotionally safe in our workplaces enough to say, you know what? Yes, I am going through brain fog right now. And it's normal. And I actually do need these kind of resources. And I do need a certain level of compassion. And I think that's a really great story where it's like all she really needed was to say, yes, this is what I'm feeling. Sometimes there's so much relief just putting a name to things. It's amazing how powerful it can be when we just say, actually, yes, this is what I'm going through. I'm not going crazy. Really is what you're describing sounds extremely empowering. And it seems so easy. Like it just seems so easy that all she needed was someone like you to say, hey, I know what you're going through. By the way, it's normal, validating their experience and saying, hey, like it doesn't have to be this big scary thing. I was just telling you as well. So for example, for me, I'm about 35 now and my friends were even saying they're like, "Yeah, like are you starting to get ready for your perimenopause?" And I was in that outdating perspective that like, what do you mean? That's something my mom would go through. Like it's not an issue for me, and it actually really is. Like it's part of our state of getting older, and we're all getting older, and it's all something that, like you said, it starts very early. Like it's our hormones are always changing as well.
Yeah.
So,
And I
yeah.
mean, I've had this conversation with my daughter and son both.
Mhm.
And of course, I mean, I'm teaching my daughter, you can start. So, this education, even for employees in their teens, to know
Mm.
what's coming and certain lifestyle choices. So, how you eat, how you exercise. In the past, it was all about being skinny, but really, it's about how do you be strong in your 20s, 70s? I want to be that strong grandmother who can pick up my grandkids and open a jar and not that rickety lady in an old age home. And unfortunately, many women of past generations, because they didn't know about osteoporosis and muscle mass building and how to eat protein, they end up with really long lives because women live longer, but really poor lives. And so it's about changing the narrative all the way from your 20s through to how do you live strong, not skinny, and how do you live really productive, healthy lives.
I love it. I love it. It's really one of those things where it's ageless, right? Our responsibility to our health is something that is a responsibility for life now and then and moving forward. I'm so happy that we're breaking through this kind of stigma. I'm still trying to figure out why the stigma even exists. It always surprises me when women's health is like still like even in our 21st century that women's health is still a stigmatized topic, which is like, what? Like I thought we were over that. I thought we were over the mysteries of women's health, right? But it's just so amazing that people are really talking about it, normalizing it. But even the fact that it's being normalized is strange to me because it's like, why are we normalizing something that's already very normal
Yeah,
and
and
something that's part of ours?
I
Yeah.
totally agree. And people say, are you sure you want to have that topic at work? And I'm like, yes, I want to have it. I agree with you. Why should we be afraid of it? Why should it is unfortunately. So women's health gets less research. Unfortunately, a lot of medical doctors are not trained on menopause. Again, it is changing and a lot more doctors are starting to specialize in it. But it is unfortunately still less research, less talked about, less brought out into the open. And why shouldn't we? Like, I think women are changing and wanting to be heard. And you said something before, and I want to go back to it. You said, it is quite simple. And I agree with you. A lot of companies just don't know where to start. And I always say, just start by having a conversation. Just start bringing it to your town halls. Start by bringing in someone like myself who can have, an education conversation with your employees. Start by having how do you support your managers to have the conversation with women who want to at least start talking about it. And there's so many ways to get started, but just start. It can be simple as a chat group. It can be simple as one of your executives who's willing to come out and say, I've gone through this. It's normal. I'm okay to talk about it, so should you. And it can be really profoundly powerful when a senior woman does that. And the good news is they're starting. Still long, long way to go, but it is starting.
It is also one of those things where one of the things that we always bring up as well on this show is revolutionizing what success looks like and really just moving out of this old paradigm of a workplace that over glorifies productivity. Because when I think about why this might be stigmatized or why women might be scared to kind of speak up is there might be, and you can let me know if you think this is the case as well, but it sounds to me like we're still living in workplaces where we don't want our superiors or the people above us to think that there's something wrong with us that is going to make us less capable or less productive or less effective or less efficient. And one of the things that we always come up with in the show is that it's having this kind of overemphasis on performance, and high performance workplaces can actually make people feel unsafe to actually come out and say, this is what we're going through. This is something that we need to talk about. And it's not scary. It's not like, I'm worried that they're going to think that I'm, too, I hear there's still a lot of ageism in the workplace as well. People may not want to seem like, they can't handle the meeting or that sort of thing. Do you think that that's the fear, that maybe they might be stigmatized as being less useful or less valuable if they're having these challenges at work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few pieces to it. So one is educated. There's many women and especially many men that just don't know what menopause is or perimenopause is. And
Hmm.
so the first piece is to educate. What is it? What are the symptoms? How do I know what's coming? So that you can be productive and you can feel healthy and be really come to work energized. And so one is a lot of people just don't know. So one is about education. Two is, yes, I do think if I say this, people are going to think I'm old or I'm not going to be as productive. But it's actually really counterproductive, because when a woman is given the support either through lifestyle or through medication or through like benefits at the work or some accommodations, which can be simply, I need a fan, or I need an hour to sleep in, or later in the day, and then I'll work later. Women can be super powerful. This can be such an enlightening time. Their children have grown up a little bit. They're not as needy. They've got more time for themselves. And so they actually can be some of the most productive women. I will tell you that I feel more energetic. I feel more passionate when I wake up now. I'm more fit and I feel healthier than I did in my 20s. And so, given the woman the tools, it actually is super powerful for corporate, because women come with their best self to work at this stage. And they're not about being less productive or older. They actually come with so much more to offer.
So I love that it's not only just something that is a cost we want to avoid, but it's actually an incredible investment. It's actually maybe one of the most important investments. And I want to talk about this piece as well, this because we also start to hear a lot about this sort of intergenerational workplace. And I notice that that's a big thing. It's very interesting too that I'm kind of seeing it on both sides. Like, for example, I mentor a lot of young leaders, and it's funny that they have different challenges, but they both just want to be seen and they both want to feel like they're valued. And when they are valued, they are incredible assets to the company. So it's really a great homage to this message that support is actually their best investment. It's not something that is an expense. Well-being and support and education of these very real challenges and opportunities that women are going through is actually, maybe their best investment, not just something that, oh, well, we should do it because we want to avoid the loss of productivity. It's like, no, well, we should do it because when women are empowered and they're feeling strong and healthy like you are now, we're unstoppable and we're actually invaluable to our companies. I want to talk a little bit about your work. So how it's very clear that you're very much the champion of this cause, as you should be. And I love seeing people who are in heart-led businesses and they actually embody what they are offering, and they actually embody everything that we need in this area, in this need that we're trying to fill as well. Tell me a little bit about what you offer, because I think people really need to know how they can get you into their doors so that you can really just be that light that sparks up both female executives and everyone at all levels.
Thank you. Yeah. So I would say it falls into three buckets. So one is pure education. So
Hmm.
it could look as a lunch and learn. It could be just a group of people brought together for a session. It has looked like a cocktail hour. It could be a
Mm.
breakfast meeting. It is being a restaurant meeting. It could look like whatever culturally it helps in your culture and works for you. But it can be a Zoom as well. I've done them where they're across the country. It's just about education. So, what is menopause? What are the symptoms? How can you change your lifestyle to mitigate some of the symptoms? How do you talk to your doctor? How do you talk to your boss? And
Mhm.
how does it impact your daily life at work? So that's one group of just filling in the education for people who it's coming, are in
Mhm.
it, are changing even later in life, and they're allies. So super important for men to understand what's happening to this other half of the population. Second is I talked a little bit about it, is training the trainer.
Mhm.
So leadership at any level, but smaller groups about how to have the empathetic conversation, how to implement changes for women who are suffering, how to bring that topic into a free space, to understand what the woman is going through. And so, how to lead with empathy in this topic of menopause. And then the third area is really leaning into HR. And there's a whole variance of items that I can help a company do. It could be simply going through all their policy and seeing where can you lean in with a menopause. You might already be offering psychological support or pelvic health support or benefits of drugs, HRT, but calling it out and saying, we support menopause in this way. And I would go through all of the policies. And then I look at also physical with HR. So as I said, does someone need a fan? I worked with a company where their uniforms were polyester, which
Of
was a
course.
real problem. And so just switching to a cotton uniform made a fundamental difference.
Mm.
So is your bathroom supportive of women who are going through hormonal changes? So there's so many areas that I lean into, but it's also just around how to implement. So just how do you get started? And we talked a little bit about it, is it a chat group? Do I help them bring someone like myself in to have, it's not one. It really does have to be a succession of continuing to talk about it. Because unfortunately, some companies are having, one talk and they're like, okay, we're done on this topic.
Yeah.
No, it has to be an evolution of really embedding into the culture of support. And so there's so many things, getting a sponsorship, who is the HR ally that they can come to talk to. So there's a variance of the HR work I do, but basically it's educational programs, leadership training, and HR policy. And then I have one other product that I love bringing to companies, and it's called the Menovate, and it could fall into any of those. And so I usually will do that in a executive offsite session or at a very large town hall where you've got your leaders of a company. And it's a vest that the male execs wear, and it actually simulates hot flushes. And so not only the physical of it, but the mental brain fog. And it is so profound when they're in the middle of a conversation and a hot flush hits them, and how it, and then, of course, yes, that's what we are going through. Empathy is incredible, and it's an amazing product. And so that's where I lean in, and it can look very different for every company, but it's super, super exciting because people are really beginning to be receptive to it and willing to start the conversation, but we have a long way to go.
We certainly do. I absolutely love those immersive tools. I think that was actually it's actually like the most amazing thing. I'm just picturing like a big like male executive just like getting all hot and bothered. It reminds me of that experiment where they had men go through period cramps and they were just in tears and tatters. And we're like, yeah, this is actually our life. Like this is what we deal with all the time, it's one thing where it's like this can like with having things like that, it's like there's no way that they can ignore it anymore. There's no way that they can downsize the impact of that experience once they're actually living it and having that immersive tool. I love that you're also allowing this support to be something that could just be at an awareness stage, at an implementation stage. But I definitely do believe that a lot of the work that we need to do as consultants is we truly need to actually work from, I always talk about working from the inside out, actually changing the whole landscape of the workplace and the culture of it, and actually shifting that and revolutionizing it. Because I do agree with you, there are a lot of one-offs. I mean, I know for myself, when I do my mental health consulting, it's always like, okay, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, we'll do a quick workshop, we check the box, and it's over. But this will never be over. This will always be a part of our workplace landscape, and it's got to be built into system change. It's got to be something that is sustainable and something that is part of the workplace, just like anything else.
Yeah, I mean, menopause month is October, and so sometimes I'll get, people will reach out and say, "Okay, I want to book for October." And I'm like, "Women go through menopause every single day, every single month. It doesn't have to be in October. Let's get started now." And
Yeah.
they're like, "Okay, let's do it." And so, of course, it's great to do things in the month that it is celebrated, but it doesn't have to only be then.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I say, I think it should just be a regular fixture, very much like when we have, for example, in Canada, we have to make sure that our buildings are and our programs are all accessible, for example. That is a consideration that is built into our systems, having sex ed and making sure that girls understand what their menstrual cycle is. That's built into our system. So I really hope and look forward to really pushing this into being just a regular part of our workplace, as opposed to a nice to have, but more of a built-in structure, a built-in support system, so that we can avoid the loss of important talent and, avoid a loss of opportunity of having just empowered high value women being supportive and really rocking their workplaces.
100%. And not being afraid of what it is. I have started to talk to women when I'm doing some of these sessions, and I'm like, be honest, be open. And, I've been in meetings where they'll go, "Yeah, I'm having a hot flush." And okay, what's the next part of the conversation? And it just, once you start having it out in the open, it no longer becomes this
Mhm.
big deal. And so you just go on with, "Okay, I'm hot. I'm taking my sweater off today." And so, yeah, I also look forward to the day where it really is not an issue and not a topic to be scared or worried about. It just is, and it's how we live our life.
It's such a breath of fresh air too, because I know that there is a lot of anxiety about it. Like I know, like I say, it's the whole notion of perimenopause is still very new to me, but like I said, it's definitely an active topic amongst my friends and amongst my colleagues. So I'm very thrilled that we're really, like I say, naming it, educating about it, and really getting rid of the fear around it, the stigma around it, really allowing it to be the very natural thing that it is. Is there any type of resistance or obstacles that we can foresee in making this a true fixture of our everyday workplace? I always like to kind of close episodes that way, because I just want to bulldoze any of those types of obstacles or just call them out, so that, again, like we were saying earlier, when we talk about it, when we get it out in the open, it's less of an obstacle, or less of a drawback. What do you think is the resistance? So you're going out there, you're saying, this is something we need to put a voice to. Your female employees are dealing with it, even if they don't want to talk about it. They're going through it. I know they're going through it. They need to feel seen. There needs to be education. Is there any pushback that you're seeing on that front? And is there any way that we can, maybe even on this episode, kind of conspire on how we can go over that hurdle, if there is one?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you ask to invest in women's health, it is a challenge. No, honestly, it is.
That's
It
frustrating.
just unfortunately just is. But I am seeing more openness to it for sure. So,
Right.
yeah, spending money on a woman only issue sometimes is an issue. But
Hmm.
I think the biggest hurdle for some companies is they just are either afraid or don't know where to start. And so, my answer to that is just, instead of doing nothing, do something. And that can be as simple as, I said, having an education session, start a chat, identify who the HR lead is, but do something, I work with companies and we create a handbook. Like there's so many things that can be done and they don't have to cost a lot of money and they can have such a profound impact. I will tell you that my sessions that I do have, typically when I ask like how many people do you think are going to show up, there always way more people show up than the company thinks are going to show up. They get way more questions than they thought. They have way more engagement than they thought. And, the sentiment at the end is almost always thank goodness, or it's about time, or thank, oh my God, my company is finally talking about something I've needed them to talk about. So the reward is so great. So just do something.
Yes, absolutely. And like I say, I see this all the time, even with mental health, that is supposed to be like being supposedly much more popular and much more talked about. But I still have, I've definitely witnessed the power of just getting it out. I find that when you create this space, they always come. It's really just a matter of saying, oh, like she's really doing it. She's really making that space. We're actually comfortable to talk about this now. I'm going there. Like I'm going straight there. And they don't even realize it. It always happens. It reminds me, I just wanted to say this one experience it reminded me of when I did a talk at OPSEU on work-life balance, and we were panelists about mental health. And when I asked about if there was any questions, nobody answered anything. Nobody wanted to ask anything. Really, that like palpable stigma. And then I actually called it out and I was like, you know what? I'm not surprised that there's no questions. We're still dealing with this lack of safety and bringing this to light. And as soon as I said that, all these hands came up. So it always just takes that one brave person like yourself to say, no, we're gonna cut all the BS. We're going to say it loud and proud. We're going to be menopause out loud, and that's it. And then everybody's like, yes, me too, me too, me too, me too. Right? I notice that's very common amongst most female movements, right? It's like it always takes that one brave woman to be the trailblazer, and then everybody else comes up and like, yes, I want to go with her. I want to be led by her.
Thank
So
you. I don't know if I'm a trailblazer, but I do think there are some very brave women who really do want to be talking about this. And I
yeah.
guess just, getting it started is something I feel so passionate about. So that, I hope that at least, one woman, someone who sees this or hears one of my talks doesn't have to suffer for as long as I had to without knowing what's going on with them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Just kind of bearing that torch. I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming onto this show. I want to also invite you as well, Aimee, if you do have any handbooks, any educational materials, any freebies, downloads, anything that they can get their hands on, whether it's a listener going through it right now that is just exhaling right now and being like, thank goodness this is coming out. Thank goodness we have women like Aimee. And I'll definitely put those links at the bottom of this video. So definitely, if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely click on any of the embedded links we'll put there. Also, Aimee, as well, if you want to drop your website, definitely get in touch with Aimee. It's just a pleasure to talk to you. It's really just a breath of fresh air, and I love how much empowerment you're bringing this to this conversation and just really living it out loud and recognizing that this might actually be a change of life that is not another burdensome female woe, and that it might actually be our opportunity to be even more strong and even more abundant and more impactful through this stage. And I love that. I love that we're really bringing the strength back to this stage of life instead of it being this mysterious thing that we're afraid of growing into. So I really appreciate how refreshing that is. So thank you so very much for joining us. Like I say, definitely get in touch with Aimee. I'll be giving as many links as possible to connect with her. If you want to get a lunch and learn, I definitely think you should. This is a year-round cause, and it's like I say, it's affecting our biggest demographic in our workplaces. So extremely critical topic, and I'm going to leave it with a amazing embrace to all the women out there that are having those hot flashes in silence, dealing with that mental fog in the meetings. You know, you're not alone, and we're here to embrace and support you. So thank you so much. Definitely like and subscribe. Get in touch with Aimee if you have any questions. And yeah, enjoy being a woman, everybody. It's not all burden. It's not all woeful. It could actually be wonderful. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll definitely be in touch with Aimee again soon. Aimee, did you want to share any kind of final thoughts to our audience before we close up?
Well, just thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this topic and I love what you do as well. And so thank you so much. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Feel free to shoot me an email. So amy@menovate.ca, or visit my website. I do have some downloads on the website. I also have some partnerships if people want to get support. But happy to do any lunch and learn or any activity with a company who wants to bring this topic and be willing and able to be menopause inclusive and support your woman employee. Really think it's a super investment for both your woman and just from a financial well-being of your company.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode.